Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I have the honor of presenting you Geordano Abreu, our technical IT guy / graphic designer. He's been with us with many a May show and December show. Always comes big on the graphics. Let me introduce you to one of my favorite folks in the world, Geordano Abreu, graphic designer. Hey, Gio, welcome.
Hey, Cam, how's it going? Good to see you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on with me and taking this journey with me.
Sure, for sure.
So what this is all about, we're trying to get the alumni together, get alumni to know each other and tell a story. So we're going to go through your story from Randolph and beyond. What's a big takeaway you'd like before we get deep into your story here? What do you want people to take away from your story?
Well, my story, I guess, is not the most conventional story when it comes to, I guess, going to a four-year college. I mean, I did go to a four-year college, but it wasn't one of the ones that, we were promote, during our 4 years in Randolph. I went to a city college, but I mean, even though you don't have the most traditional way going out and, dorming and stuff like that, as long as you're passionate and you know what you want to do, you can definitely make the most out of your experience no matter where you go.
Yeah, so we've had this conversation before, man. I'm so proud of you. I want you to know that. Super proud of you. I think when we have that conversation about like city college, especially going across the street on the city campus where A. Philip Randolph is based, it comes into a numbers game. And when we're telling a student, hey, we want you to go to a college, we want to set you up for success, we want you to go to a 4-year competitive liberal arts school, it's set in the ideas of an understanding around the numbers. And if you go over to City College across the street from A. Philip Randolph, just looking at the raw numbers, and I know they change from time to time, but I know the numbers that I was most familiar with, if you're going as an undergrad student, not in the Sophie Davis program, but just as a regular student, you got a 6% chance of graduating from that school, just in pure statistical numbers. So that's why we do some of the encouragement of like, go out of state, experience something different. But I guarantee you, I am super proud. I know Thompson's super proud. Anybody that goes out there and gets that degree, and for myself, and my story, I did not graduate from high school, got my GED, then followed the girl in the red leather pants around, trying to figure out a good college, and chose based on what I was seeing walking in front of me, which is not the way I would recommend choosing a college for sure. And I was up at Eugene Lane College in the city, and 2 years, still have debt involved with those 2 years, and don't have a college degree to show for it. So believe me, man, a degree is a degree is a degree, and then it's what you do with it, not where you went and all that jazz, right? So. Yeah. Talk to us about the Randolph experience. You're a big part of my Randolph experience in general. When I think about Randolph, Gio's a part of that. So definitely looking forward to kind of hearing the story of how you got into Randolph and your experience as you made your way through.
Sure. Well, when I first started, back in middle school, when you were still applying for high schools, Randolph was my second choice, to be honest. But I mean, I was still very happy to be accepted there. Initially just because my then girlfriend at the time was actually going to school a couple blocks down. So, I mean, that was my, thing to look forward to at the time. And I knew a couple people from my middle school who were also going there as well. But yeah, my first year of Randolph, I mean, it was interesting. It was, I had a commute on the train to school for the first time. So that was a big step. But being there was pretty cool. I actually went to the orientation, and that was my first introduction to Thompson. And then like a couple months after that, I got like a demo of the December show, and I just kind of like dove into SBI from there.
So right away, freshman year.
Yeah, right away, freshman year. It was actually one of the previews that they would show the students, after they've come up with something for the December show. They get like a little preview to like hype it up, to buy tickets. And I saw actually one of the people I went to middle school with, Catherine Gomez was her name. She was actually just ushering. She knew Thompson, and she was just helping out ushering people in when they were coming to sit down. And after I saw the show, I was really impressed because it was like, for a high school production, we had, flashing lights going on, and the music sounded great coming from the auditorium. So I was like, wow, this is pretty big production for just a high school. What's going on? Something into it.
I love the name drop in these stories. So I hope Catherine Gomez is paying attention to this and sees this, because it's one of those things that, like, just a little bit of an interaction can change somebody's life. And your introduction into SBI definitely changed all of our lives. You've done an amazing amount of work, not only on the shows, but on everything from, flyers to pamphlets and pieces for fundraising and beyond. I mean, you've been incredible on the graphic design. Talk to us about how you kind of got into graphic design, and let's keep on going on the journey from Randolph. How were you, kind of getting adjusted to school? What part did SBI play, and were you involved in anything else going on in school?
Well, the whole graphic design thing, I guess I could say that it started before high school. I was, passionate about doing stuff on Photoshop. I mean, back then, it was pretty simple stuff. I was like, learning how to make like an album cover for like a mixtape, because burning CDs back then was still a thing. Kind of showing my age there, but
yeah, I go back to cassette tapes, so that,
yeah, but yeah. So I already had like a passion for Photoshop and designing things, and I saw that that there was some graphic stuff that were being projected while people were performing on the shows, and I was like, yeah, that's something I can do. I could put my stuff up there. So that was kind of like my introduction. I mean, I didn't really go into the whole graphic thing initially inside SBI, but I started as like a lighting captain, lighting designer for SBI. So just controlling lights for the shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, who were you working with when you started that freshman year and going into sophomore?
Like inside SBI itself, it was actually the original production team. Because it was still relatively fresh, establishing the production team when it came to the shows. So the first crew that they actually got in and they trained them how to do this stuff, like those were my teachers.
With Farley?
So Farley was the one that trained them. I didn't meet Farley till like maybe end of sophomore year or junior year when he came back. But he was the one that trained them, and that was Leanne, who's a board member now for SBI. As well as Frank. They were the two lighting captains, and they're pretty much the people that taught me everything there.
See, now you're schooling me, because I didn't even remember. So Leanne, who's on the board, used to be on production. I don't even, it's totally gone. So that's great. I'm so glad that we got that piece, because I don't even remember her being a part of production. That's crazy. Yeah. I got to get her interviewed as well. We did Marissa, who's on the board, but we haven't done anybody else yet. So that's exciting. All right. So tell us about your journey through Randolph.
So I went through the introduction with Thompson. Catherine told me where to find him inside the school, because I had no idea where to find Thompson. And one lunch period, I actually went inside the iconic office of where he was at. And I told him, like, hey, I saw what you guys were doing for the December show, and I'm interested. So he just gave me a piece of paper, signed it. It was like a consent form. And yeah, that was just like pretty much the start there. And I started to come up in the weekends, but right when we started to actually prep, I think for the May show at that point, at the start of January, is when I really started to get into the swing of things and started to learn all this stuff.
Yeah, I remember when we were doing were we doing the two big screens on the side of the stage at that point with
on a huge canvas,
with much of your graphics displayed on either side of the screen, on the side of the stage. Yeah, I might throw up some of those. Sorry, I might throw up some of those graphics here. So let me search for that while you keep going on with your story.
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually still have some of those slides myself. I was actually pretty good in saving all that content from those May shows. A lot of those slides just consisted of a picture that I found on the web with the text of the. You
gotta send them to me, and I'll put them out with this content. Yeah. I think people will like to see it and dig it. I know I have some of them here.
Oh yeah,
tell us about sophomore and junior year.
So sophomore year, since I was pretty much the only freshman doing the whole SBI thing in terms of production. After my first year, I got familiar with a lot of people, met some new friends, and I actually helped recruit them into the whole SBI thing. I kind of like sweeten the deal. Like, hey, we get to do this cool stuff after school. You know, we got access to like backstage, you know, because that was like the cool thing, you know, and I talked a lot of my friends to joining SBI. So we kind of like filled up because the previous production team, they were all pretty much seniors. They were class of 2007. So they were gone by the end of the year. So we had to fill up those seats a lot. So I ended up being the lighting captain. I had another one of my friends, Michel, who was a co-captain. And then I had Javier, Anthony, and Albert doing audio.
Yeah,
so it was just like all the friends together.
That was a great crew. That was a great crew. I got to get Javier to interview as well. I reached out. I got to follow up with him.
Yeah. We also keep in touch.
That's good. Yeah. If you can encourage them, I'd like to get them all on here. That was a pretty awesome crew. The four of you and the folks that were in and around you. It was really good.
You're missing one more person. I believe it's Davis. We called ourselves the Fab Five.
Fab Five. That's great. Yeah, we got to get you guys. It'd be nice to actually get a call with all of you on. That'd be really, really cool.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we'll arrange that. That'll be good. All right, so keep us going here.
Yeah, so I mean, sophomore year, you know, we had a nice little crew going on. So we did a lot of the May show stuff, also the December show. We were starting to amp up production because that's what Thompson really wanted to do, really get seats in there. Because really, for those people who don't know about SBI, I mean, the reason why we were doing these shows was so we can collect money, so we can actually go do trips into four-year colleges. Was I actually had the opportunity to actually go into Gettysburg, one of those trips for a week, which was really cool.
What'd you get from the Gettysburg College Workshop?
I mean, just college life in general. I mean, just like being out there on your own. I believe when we did that, I was a sophomore. So it was a lot of us, a lot of people from the step team too was there. Trevor was there too. And he actually did a step rendition there with actually the college step team that was there too. It was actually pretty cool.
I think I was on that trip with you guys and in talking, because I interviewed Trevor and talking to him, it was sort of interesting because he went to Gettysburg young, like he was in his freshman or sophomore year. And then he didn't really go back on another college workshop trip, which I thought was interesting. I think it sort of played into how his college experience played out, because I think the more you go on those trips, the more you learn to appreciate what resources the campus have. And it's sort of like, hey, Emmanuel Castillo says UB for life. I think I have some UB graphics actually up on the screen. Did you do the one with the city background? Was that you?
I might have. This has like chopped up letters. Like it's like, that might have been me.
I'll throw that up here. Yeah. So keep telling us. So that's cool with the Gettysburg trip. Did you go on college workshops in your junior or senior year?
Well, I mean, that was really the only college trip I went to for Gettysburg. That was really the big one.
I know we went to other schools. I'm just wondering if you got a chance to go in your other years.
No, I think there was a trip out to Skidmore, but I don't think I made it to that one.
Okay. Yeah, I know we did several, and I think one of the things that, you know, it's a tough thing because there was usually a cost involved.
Right.
Those trips taught students what resources, had you speaking to kids and folks on campus, and it really gives you a better view of college life than just simply going onto a campus and taking a tour, and definitely a lot better than not visiting the campus at all. And I think that's something that, you know, if you're applying for college, you're going to spend 4 years, you're going to spend God knows how much money. Go and check that campus out.
For sure.
So talk to us more about so sophomore year, Gettysburg trip. Let's keep it moving. What happened junior year?
So junior year, more people started to join SBI. Some of the younger years started to join production team. And that was pretty cool. We actually established a pretty big backstage team, which we had a really big need for the previous year. So, and like I said, we were amping up the production. So that's when Farley came back in, and that was our first introduction to Farley. And he was great. You know, he has an extensive background with production and stuff like that. We started to bring in lights, gobo lights to actually move around, and we actually hooked them up for the show, which is pretty cool.
I think this is one of yours here, yeah?
Might be, yeah. I mean, it looks familiar for sure. Or maybe that might have been Frank, who was the person who did it before I did.
I got a few of these. I know I got, so, and then I have other photos where I got photos of the size of the stage, and I probably got files where I saved some of this stuff. But it was always great having those graphics that hyped up the crowd. It's one of those things that, even now is sort of a lesson learned. I mean, I learned so many lessons doing work for Thompson, and I think everybody does, because you're actually doing real world kind of nitty gritty kind of stuff that you would do for a show, production, business, that sort of thing.
Right.
All right, so talk to us more about junior year, getting into senior year. What was going on?
So junior year, I mean, like most students, you're starting to ramp up and start choosing colleges, doing SAT prep, things like that. So, I mean, yeah, we were all with the mindset of, let's go out to a 4-year college, let's try to, go somewhere where we can, be independent and stuff like that. I had since I wanted to do things, graphic design related, one of the 4-year colleges that I was looking at was RAT out in Rochester.
Yeah.
So I didn't really had a chance to go out there. I had intentions to, but I sent out my application out there through the Common App and things like that. So, and they actually asked for a portfolio, which was very interesting because I always felt like, you go to college so you could learn most of the stuff. Not that you already have an established portfolio, but I mean, it makes sense because I mean, I already had a passion for Photoshop and things like that, and I did have artwork. Although I didn't feel confident actually putting it on there, but I did have to show something. So I did put some stuff on there.
I think that's great. For a student that's looking to go for that kind of a career, they're interested in art. My 11-year-old son, his art is wild. He actually has his own website, leototh.com, if you can believe it. And he's got art up there, and he's doing some really good stuff. I showed you the treehouse man he was putting together earlier. But that advice around put your portfolio together early. So I've actually been telling him, based on that kind of experience and knowing that later he's going to have to apply for stuff, and then teachers are going to look at him, and it's one thing if you walk up to a teacher and say, hey, I'm looking for help on art, and you don't have anything in your hands. It's another thing you come up to them with a portfolio in your hand and they say, hey, this is what I do, can you help me? I think people are a lot more willing to help you and reach out. And I think that goes for like the college application process. When you reach out to a college and you're able to show, hey, this is what I do, and you're able to do that easily, I think it makes a big difference in the application process. So I'm glad you shared that. I think that's something that can help a lot of people. Put that portfolio together early, save everything you do, and start putting it together.
Definitely.
So when you heard that you needed a portfolio, did you start putting one together?
Yeah, I started actually opening up old Photoshop files and started to spruce it up just so it could look better. By the time I sent it out, just so it could, really wow them. But I don't know if it had that effect. I did. I also applied to city colleges here as well. One that was closest to my field, actually had things that I was interested in terms of graphic design, was City College of Technology out in Brooklyn, which is part of the whole CUNY team group. So I ended up going there, and I did my full 4 years there, and I got a bachelor's there.
And so talk to us about, you're making the decision to go to college. You've done your applications and everything. You get accepted to City Tech, I think is what we would call it, right? City Tech.
Right.
What's going on in your mind? What's going on with family and stuff? You mentioned to me before, which I don't think I even knew, you have an older brother, 2 younger brothers at this point, right? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So actually, my older brother, he was actually one that pushed me to apply to City Tech specifically, because he actually went there and was on a path to get an associate's degree there. He did end up leaving before he can get the associate's degree, but I mean, he made his bones elsewhere. He's doing pretty good now. Yeah, so I was out there in City Tech. It was, I mean, my first impression of City Tech was, and I think I've made it known on Facebook during the time when I actually started there, it felt like high school, honestly. The whole thing, how it looked like. I mean, the fact that I was still inside the city, things like that. So going to different classes, it didn't feel that much different at first. Going to City Tech, it felt like Randolph all over again, just in a different location. But it wasn't until I actually started getting challenged in a lot of the elective courses that I had, was when I really started to feel, the college effect, essentially. And I didn't feel like I was going to get that initially because I stayed in the city.
Yeah, I think that that's probably a common feeling. If you're in that position where it's like, okay, I'm going to go to community college, and then, I think one of the reasons that we sort of stress, like, go to a competitive place, is I think you want to be in a place where people are competitive, and they really want to do the best, and you want to be side by side with people that are trying to work on a career, rather than, I got to get these credits to get this certification so I can take my police exam, or, I'm getting these credits to get the certification to do my nursing thing, or, my father's making me go to school, or my mother's making me go to school. I don't really want to be here. You're going because, you're in a spot because people competed for that seat. So that's why we talk about the competitive side of it. But I love the success stories. I mean, you talk about the famous people that have come out of the CUNY system, and it's just name after name after name, people that, they apply themselves. And I'm saying 60%, going across the city to City College, but the 6% that are able to persevere and actually make it through and be that 6% statistic. These are folks that they're pushing forward. So, man, hats off to you, because it's not easy, especially staying in the city, being around family, and still dealing with school, which is, again, another reason why we're trying to push people out, because we know that it's a lot. And the fact that you were able to go through that and do it speaks very highly of you, brother. Very highly. Destiny's story is sort of interesting, because she talks about going to master's school, and she's in Columbia, and she's pregnant, and they send her to the disability office. Like, real life and school don't really mix. So it's sort of like, that whole idea of welcome to the real world. Once you finish, it's a real thing. And when you have to deal with the real world and school at the same time, it's very challenging. And I didn't last. I didn't make it. I was going to school in the city myself, and I didn't make it through. So really, again, very proud of you, brother. So talk to us about the latter part of so at the beginning, it didn't seem like it was all that technical, and you weren't getting the challenge that you felt like college needed to bring to you. Talk to us about, once things started, how did you apply yourself? How did you take advantage of the college experience?
Yeah, so like past my first year is when I really started to get into the classes and the things that I was doing, because of the projects that they were giving us was really challenging, and it allowed me to push my Photoshop skills a little bit further. And they also established some limitations, which was also good. I feel like the first year didn't really give me that effect, because they were really talking about the basics of the programs that you would be dealing with to design things and stuff like that. And I already had a pretty good understanding before getting into college, so I was fortunate in that regard, because I kind of knew what I was passionate about, and I was going to school for that very same thing. So I kind of already had a step up when it came to knowing the programs. So I felt like it was pretty laid back for that first year. But once we already knew how to use those programs, and they started giving us projects and creative projects to start implementing there, is when I really started to push myself, and really came up with some interesting stuff when I was out there. Stuff that I still have in my portfolio to this day, actually.
So talk to us a little bit on the nitty gritty side. This might not be for everybody, but, for somebody that wants to get into graphic design and really wants to, whether they're in high school now or in college, what would you recommend that they be doing? Should they be, in the Adobe suite? What things should they be doing to sort of be current and relevant in today's world in graphic design?
Really, what helped me in the long run was learning it myself. So getting in there, practicing, self-teaching essentially. I mean, because with the internet these days and with YouTube, you can essentially learn anything on your own. You don't necessarily have to step foot inside a classroom to learn this stuff, which is why I had a leg up in that first year of college, because I already knew how to use the programs. I just wanted to, get how to,
So
make interesting things.
I'm wondering, obviously you have the degree under your belt. I think there's a huge value to having that degree. I mean, being able to take that. I often talk about, I have a passion for education, but I can't go down the street and teach, because if I want to go teach for the community college, they're going to want a degree. So there's that, right? You have that. But, let's say somebody's passionate. They just want to do graphic design. They can go on YouTube. They can go read websites. They can do it on their own. They can start taking customers on as a high school student or a college student. What's the point of doing these classes? How do you think it helps, or is it even worth it?
It's definitely worth it. I mean, because I was definitely answering that myself the first year. I was like, if this is going to be how it is for the next 4 years, like, then what's the point of even doing it? But I'm glad I stuck around, because it wasn't that case. Really, you do. I mean, because not only just knowing graphic design and learning how to do the things, you also have to learn the business of it too, right? Because you got to know how to establish a clientele, how to organize a portfolio and things like that, and also negotiate prices and things like that. So you really got to know about the business itself. It's like going to business school. You learn about business in general. You go to school for graphic design, not only just how to do things on Photoshop and things like that, you're also going to know of the profession itself.
That's awesome. And how has that helped now? Because I know, post college, you are working as a freelance graphic designer. Geographics.
Geographics, yeah, that was my domain name.
We're going to see if we can get that back up, but I know if folks want to connect with you on jobs and everything, I'll throw up the LinkedIn profile so they can get in touch with you. But talk to us about how that's helping and how you're utilizing that experience from college now.
Well, towards my junior and senior year in college is when we really started to work on our portfolio and, how to do things beyond college and how to actually establish a network and things like that. I also minored in advertising specifically because I felt like I wanted to do advertising coming out of college. So not only did I learn about the advertising and being in agencies, I also learned how to like marketing and things like that, like doing guerrilla marketing, advertising, things like that. So I could better advertise myself when the time came to actually do freelancing.
Tell us about this here. This is this Mo Pockets campaign that you put together with all the stationery graphics. This is really cool.
Yeah. So this is actually a legit company out in Seattle. They didn't actually go for this design, but they did see it, and they actually, they reached out to me and they thanked me. This was part of a course I did, design portfolio, where you had to design a logo and then also come up with a mock-up. So pretty much an entire branding. So when it came to packaging, letterheads, things like that, as you can barely see there, but right there in the middle, they actually operate out of trucks. So I actually mocked up a food truck with their logo on it and stuff like that, so they can take a look at that.
That's awesome. Yeah, listen, when I look at this just blows me away, because, I mean, you got everything from the iPhone app to the business card to the letterhead to the T-shirts to the to-go package to the actual store logos and brandings that they would put on the windows and on the awning. You got the package here, the cups. I mean, this is just all encompassing. And I think, if you're doing this at home, you're probably not getting pushed to do this level of stuff. This is amazing. I mean, this is, you got the letters for the mailings. This is really what it is. If you're an agency and you're going to design, you need to see it in all these forms, because that's what McDonald's is going to do. They're going to rebrand McDonald's. They're going to rebrand Johnny Rockets or any restaurant. This is what's going to go on, right?
Definitely, presentation is key for sure.
Very cool. I love this Captain America campaign.
Yeah, that was like a IMAX 3D Guerrilla campaign that I was mocking up for school. It was one of my projects. So the idea of, well, basically Guerrilla Marketing is like it's not just a simple ad that you can see like a billboard. It's something that's kind of interactive that you can kind of like engage with in many ways. So this is like, you see the regular poster for that Thor movie right there, but on the other end, you see his hammer pierce through the glass, and the same thing with the Captain America one there.
Yeah, this is selfie material all day. This is great for the now. Like if somebody wants to get in touch with you for a campaign like this, I mean, I love this. This is great because you could just imagine the selfies with the arrows, selfies with the photo of the Thor hammer breaking the glass there, the shield on the lamp. I mean, just really cool stuff.
You probably won't go to a movie theater these days, but I mean, that was back then when promoting IMAX 3D was marketable.
Yeah, well, this too shall pass, right? I love this campaign that you did for the robotics at Randolph. This is really cool as well.
Yeah, actually, they actually did put that on shirts and the sweater. I actually still have the sweater. They were nice enough to give me one once they actually manufactured them. By the time I designed this, I was already outside of Randolph, so I actually did this when I was in college. I worked with, I believe her name was Suman Sebastian. She was one of the teachers there at the time, and she was one who was doing the Randolph robotics team at the time.
I love this stuff. I mean, somebody that, is interested in a really, cool design label to do the clothing. I'm going to have Melosis on tomorrow. She designs clothing and brands and, having alumni work together on things like that. That's a dream come true for me to see folks connecting. So hopefully you will on something soon. Have you worked with Melosis at all?
Oh yeah, I've definitely helped because I also did, I dabbled in photography too and editing photos. So she did a lot of modeling. I mean, that probably still does modeling to this day. I edited a lot of her photos. Yeah.
She's sewing up designer masks right now. She's doing everything. She's got a lot going on. She's been very busy.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. So talk to us about life post-college, dude. Now something that we haven't talked about, but you have a high school sweetheart that you're now married to, right?
Indeed I am, yes.
And you got some good news on that front. Just a while ago, she graduated with her doctorate, right? Medical.
Yeah, she's an MD now.
That is very cool. And I believe it's Ari Garcia, right?
Ari Garcia, that's right. Dr. Ari Garcia now.
Dr. Ari Garcia, congratulations.
She's going to be the one to correct me on that now.
That's very cool, man. And so talk to us about post-college life. Obviously, supporting your significant other and being out in the real world. You're working at Apple. Talk to us about what's going on and what the future might hold for you.
Well, straight out of college, I mean, I had the idea of doing freelancing off the jump. I mean, I was already technically doing freelancing even while I was in college, and I had all the intentions of doing that. But I was thinking of getting a day job, to help pay for bills, and because I was planning on moving out at the time as well. So I started working for actually a biking company for 2 years before I actually went to Apple. It was very interesting. It's very humbling as well because delivering food out in Midtown really brings you down a bit. And I did that while freelancing. I had a lot of free time back then, so I actually had a lot of time to devote to graphic design and actually do stuff. I was promoting myself a lot more then, for sure, because I had a lot of time. But then when I started getting into Apple, I kind of slowed down a little bit in terms of the freelancing, but I still do it. I'm just probably not promoting myself as much. But I mean, word of mouth still works. I still do work for a lot of my friends, and a lot of those friends have friends who also need work. So that's how I still get around doing freelance work.
Listen, having a guy that is in your network that does graphic design is invaluable. The logo for Toth Event Staffing was designed by a guy that worked with me. I was at this company called the Scientific Group. So I just popped actually I can throw it in there so you see that big logo. That was designed by Carlos Arias, who's a graphic design guy, worked in our design department at the Scientific Group, and just networking with him. And I was like, hey, I'm starting this company. This is back in 2011. So right around your time. So you graduated from Randolph in 2011, right?
2010.
Oh, 2010. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All that crew all around there. And that's my folks. A lot of the folks that I'm interviewing first, because you guys know me the best. 2010, 2011 were 2 big years for me being back in the program. So I had that logo design back in 2011, and now I'm like thinking about renaming the company and all that stuff. But that was a big deal for me, having somebody, that could kind of hook me up, because I didn't have thousands of dollars to throw into logo. I didn't know what I was doing, and he took care of me. So always good to connect with somebody that knows what they're doing on the graphic design side. So talk to us about, what you're doing now with Apple, and what the dream is, and, tell us about some of the people you'd like to work with, or some of the projects you'd like to work on.
So, I mean, in Apple, what I am is a specialist, essentially. So someone who works in the sales department, essentially. But there's so much room for improvement inside that company. And my first thought of even applying to there, so like that I could actually do something in the realm of graphic design within the company itself. This is so big. And one of the things that pushed me to do that was actually my brother's success in the company as well. Because like I mentioned before, he was, doing the college thing, ended up dropping out, worked at Starbucks for a bit, and then he ended up getting a job at Apple, very similar to the way that I got my job. So he started off, retail, doing specialist stuff, preparing iPhones, and then he eventually did a career experience for the thing that he wanted to do, because what he went to school for was for coding. And he did a career experience within the job itself. Sent him out to California for about 6 months. Tried that out for a bit. He did so well that they liked him so much that they actually gave him a full-time job and helped him move out over there. So that right there was really step in a direction where I think I might be successful.
That's awesome. No, he's got a great story, and it's great to have a big brother that's doing stuff and a part of the company. It's really cool. Have you been out to San Francisco? I think I asked this question before, and I think you said yes, right?
Yeah. I went out there to visit him. I've been out to California twice already. Once with my wife to do some residency interviews, but the first time was to see him, and it was quite the experience. California life is cool. I mean, it's a little bit quiet out in the Cupertino area. It's a little bit more rural, so you definitely have to have a car out there.
Yeah.
If you're used to the city life, it's definitely a lot different.
Yeah, California is different all the way around. When I went to San Francisco, I stayed out in Oakland, because it's just really interesting. So that, like, I don't know that it's more expensive than New York City, but it's pretty high rates for
pretty comparable. Yeah.
So I stayed out in Oakland, and I was able to Uber in and out of the city, day and even I probably could have Ubered twice back and forth, and I think I did. And all the Uber rides plus the hotel stay costed less than one night in a hotel in the middle of San Francisco. It's crazy. And that environment out there is crazy. And then you go up, and it's a whole nother world outside of San Francisco. I grew up myself down in Southern California. So California is very different. It's a big state, and depending on where you are, it's wildly different. What projects would you like to be in? If you had you got the wish list, the dream list, what are kind of projects that you would like to be involved with going forward?
Well, I mean, a major production would be cool, like in terms of maybe designing a poster for a major movie. I've actually been doing that recently. I have some friends who are inspiring actors and writers and stuff like that, and they've actually put out short films that have been accepted to a lot of film festivals out there, not just here in the US, but also abroad as well. And my artwork is also featured on IMDb and the Internet Movie Database, because I've designed the majority of their posters and things like that. So that's always fun, because I always feel like, you always see a movie poster for an upcoming movie. So everyone's eyes is going to be on that poster. And it's great to say that, hey, that poster right there, I made that.
So if I want to go and see that stuff, do you have that all in one place?
I have a lot of my recent stuff not posted online, just because they're still marketing the stuff, and the festivals haven't happened yet. So I kind of like step back and promoting it myself. I've given them the opportunity to do it. But I have intentions of putting that up.
Don't worry. Anybody watching, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to make sure you see everything that we can publish and put out there. We're going to make sure you see it because I gotta make sure my boy, my guy, is out in the world and people know what he can do because he's really a special artist. He has something really amazing, and I know you're going to touch just about every single person in the world with the stuff that you put out there because I know. For everybody that's been through the SBI program in the last, I don't know how many years, every single person, whether they know it or not, Geo has touched them with your art and with your campaigns. Just recently, the 40th anniversary pamphlet for that event, which was an amazing event that was underutilized by the alumni. But we're gonna make sure that changes. Talk to us. What's the big takeaway again that you want people to take away from your story today?
I mean, you should always try hard to, figure out what you're passionate about. And I mean, also you shouldn't feel pressure to do it because even if you take the step to go out to a 4-year college, really put yourself out there, that's the best thing to do to even find out what you want to do. Because you may jump into something when you first start, but then you realize like, oh, I actually want to do this other thing over here. And you can easily switch up your major. I mean, it's not a big deal. You don't necessarily have to go pick something as a profession and stick with it till the end of your 4 years. Not everyone knows exactly what they want to do. I was fortunate enough to know that, I was really passionate about graphic design. So I knew what I wanted to do from the very beginning. I don't know what colleges to apply to. But even the fact that I didn't get accepted to a prestigious 4-year college, outside of the city to really get that, college experience. I did get that more or less here in the city. And it doesn't mean you can't be successful and, really put yourself out there and be where you want to be just because you didn't go to a 4-year college. The fact that you're putting yourself out there, attending school, even outside of high school to learn something, not even just to learn something that you thought you were interested in, you really learn about yourself and who you want to be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think most people know for sure. I mean, there's a lucky few. I mean, you were, I think, lucky in the fact that you knew you wanted to do graphic design, but a lot of people don't even know that. So, creating an environment where it's okay to fail, okay to, try something new, really can help you figure your way in life. Have a goal, work towards it, and if along the way you decide, hey, there's something else I'm interested in, that's part of the journey, and that's okay. I want to end this. You have a little friend there with you, and I think people are going to want to know who that is with you. Make a little introduction for us.
Yeah, man. This is Leo. This is my bearded friend here.
Hey,
just
Leo.
Like me. I had to put him on my lap because this is where he's most quiet, so he doesn't bark up a storm. And he's been pretty good so far.
He was great.
Yeah, he was on my lap the entire time until he poked his head out.
He looks great. I think people enjoy seeing him. Gio, thank you so much for doing this with me. We got some big stuff. We're going to try to work on some things together, and I'm excited about it.
Appreciate you, Cameron. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. We're going to be back tomorrow. We should have Melosis with us. That should be cool, and I'm looking forward to that as well, bringing the alumni together. Definitely catch her up on what you're doing, Gio, and definitely want to check out the stuff that she's working on. You guys are both really creative people. Trevor's doing this thing on the business side, with Kosovo doing the stuff on the writing side. They could probably use your help on the graphics for sure. Destiny's putting stuff out. She's got stuff to purchase online. She's an event. She's inspiration for me. Jasmine, who is working hard, who now hopefully will be connected with Ori, which is amazing because I think they're going to work at the same hospital, which is amazing, right? And
that's right, yeah.
Marissa, who's on the board, she's an event planner and has utilized your skills putting together the event pamphlet for the 40th anniversary and some of our gala stuff. So it's just about bringing people together and connecting the alumni. And I'm so excited that you were able to do this and we can keep this going. Thank you.
Sure, man.
All right, everyone, that's it for today. See you tomorrow.